Hello my dear students, welcome to your Geography's online class. Today in this class we shall be dealing with the two remaining transportation system, that is airways and waterways. Last class we discussed about the land transport, that is mostly railways and roadways, along with their advantages and disadvantages. Today we shall be discussing about airways, their advantages and disadvantages, and waterways. So first of it, let's see airways with their advantages and disadvantages. But before that, let us just try to understand airways. When we talk about airways, it simply can be very easily understood that this is one of the modern means of transportation. India was not very profound in terms of air transportation, but very recently with the privatization, in fact with the liberalizations of the transportation system, the airways has been able to provide a better facilities than as compared to the earlier times. So the airways, which has been serving for so long in India now, have introduced even the private sectors in terms of the work provided, that is the service that is provided for transportation system in the country. So let's talk about the advantages of airways. We see when we talk about advantages, the first thing that comes to our mind is time factor. Time factor, because we see that airways is the fastest means of transportation system. No other transport is as fast as airway systems. So hence we consider this to be the fastest mode. The next, it's very useful for supplying food and medical aids during the time of emergencies. During the time of emergencies like floods, earthquake, or any of such other natural calamities that affects a place. During those times, airways acts very useful and are very important for us to provide an immediate and instant relief to that particular place with the help of supplying food or medical facilities. Then the third is it's very suitable for carrying light and perishable goods. There are certain goods which requires a faster time to be carried and reach to the place where it is to be processed. So in that case, airways plays a very important role. And at the same time, it is also very good in carrying lightweight goods. Fourth advantage is it serves a very important role in times of war. In times of war, it's quite important in carrying the soldiers to the border areas, or even for providing various other facilities, like even for supplying of food and medical aids during the times of war. Airways in fact plays a very important role. But apart from these advantages, airways certainly do have disadvantages as well. When we talk about disadvantages, the first is that it's very costly. Though it's the fastest mode of transportation, but yet it's only affordable by the rich people. Poor people cannot afford the transport service. The second is harsh climatic condition always disrupts the normalcy of the airway services. Like harsh climatic conditions, for example, heavy snowfall or storm. In such conditions, storms and heavy rainfall, in such conditions, airways cannot operate. So, in many a times we see during the winter days, most of the flights are cancelled because of dense fog or because of heavy snowfall taking place in those areas wherever the air transportation systems has been provided. Now, the next is it needs huge capital for construction and maintenance of air transports. Obviously it is, because it's the modern means of transportation system. So highly technified, that is technologies involvement in the construction as well as with all the monitoring system. Hence capital investment is huge. So not every places can have these airway systems because of high cost of constructions of airports as well as their maintenance. Next is airway system is of high risk in traveling. Though it's comfortable for traveling a long journey, but it's high risk because if anything goes wrong, even with the signaling system, if anything goes wrong with that, then there might be a chances that occurs for crash to occur. Hence, it becomes quite risky. The risk is also involved in terms of hijacking of the flights or the planes. Mostly by the terrorist group, they make air system as one of their targets. So this is where risk is involved. So these are the advantages and disadvantages of airways. So the last one of the transportation system to be discussed is waterways. So waterways, now we will understand when we talk about waterways is that the transportation system which is only operated on the waters is known as waterways. Waterway transportation, or you can say waterways of this sort of transportation, is of two types. One is inland waterways, which is mostly practiced in rivers, and then the other is the open routes or the oceanic routes. When we talk about inland waterway system in India is not so well developed. The reason being that India, though has many rivers, but not all these rivers are navigable because the water level either is very less, or you can say most of the rivers are rain-fed river. Also, the reason why inland waterways is not so developed is because of heavy siltation that is caused by the rivers in the riverbed. So the depth of the water is less. You can say it is a shallow river, and hence they are not very navigable. Only few rivers are navigable, like river Ganga, Brahmaputra. These are navigable rivers, but not all. But when we talk about open routes, we would say waterways is one of the oldest means of transportation. As in earlier times, most of the people used to travel through waterways. Hence, it has advantages as well as the disadvantages. So, the advantages of waterways is that it's very useful for transporting bulky and heavy goods, because the cost of transportation is very less, and hence it becomes quite easier for transporting this bulky and heavy goods. Second is it's the cheapest mode of transport. The price, that is the freight and fare, is quite less. It is fuel efficient and eco-friendly because it causes less pollution, and uses of fuel is very less, as it also utilizes the wind energy and the wave energy. The next is it's quite easier and safe to travel through water transport, because on very least occasion the accidents occurs. While in the other case, we can also say that water transport is quite free of traffic, and hence it becomes more advantageous. Free of traffic as compared to roadways, you can see that roadways are quite heavily packed with traffic because the density of roads is quite more, and even the populations, they are mostly traveling through roadways. Hence traffic becomes heavy. While its disadvantages, despite being the cheapest mode of transport, not everyone would love to travel by waterways because it's very slow, and the traveling hours are very long, and people may suffer from seasickness. So this is very slow mode of transportation. At the same time, when it's slow mode of transportation, traveling takes very long time, people start suffering from seasickness. The next is it's completely depends on the weather condition. Weather condition, like if it is quite normal and there is no such stormy conditions in water, then the water transport becomes quite prominent. But in times of cyclones and stormy conditions, it causes a huge hindrance for the transportation of water, because that causes huge loss of life. The next is, though bulky and heavy goods can be transported, but perishable goods cannot be transported through waterways. In fact, perishable good would lose its quality by the time it reaches the factory when we transport through waterways. Hence, it is not very well utilized for transporting perishable goods. So this is all about the chapter and the transportation system to be discussed. The four different transportation methods: roadways, railways, waterways and airways. and their advantages and disadvantages. So thank you class, and you all have a good time.